Back to the markets, which are taking a breather, although, as mentioned, Bitcoin just went positive, and so did the Nasdaq. This coming after the Dow closed yesterday above 44,000 for the first time. The S&P and Nasdaq are on pace for their first negative day in 6, although the S&P is down only 4 points right now. And our next guest says a mild correction would be a very welcome event. Hugh Johnson is chairman and chief investment officer of Hugh Johnson Economics. Good to see you, Hugh. Talk us through it. What's going on here?
Well, there's a lot going on. Obviously, since the election, we had a move up in stocks, which was quite something to see. And I would say that based on the sort of number crunching, call it speculation that I do, it moved from being roughly a little bit undervalued to being overvalued. We're about 6.5%, as I do the numbers right now, overvalued or above the level that the S&P should average for the current quarter. And I think also, I might add, that the upside potential between now and the end of 2025 is not that great. It's only about 1.7%. As you go further out, the returns look like they're going to be much better. But right now, we're very fully valued, and that's always valuation is a primary concern of myself all the time, and it's a deep concern right now. We're a little bit overvalued or pricey.
Is there too much optimism?
Yeah, that's the second thing that really bothers me. It's not just that we're overvalued, but it's that there's a high and widespread optimism. And Tyler, that historically, when you see a combination of overvaluation, which is one of my concerns, and then, of course, when we have high and widespread optimism, that's usually a signal that you should be a little bit careful right now. And after a move up to the upside that we've seen, that certainly makes a lot of sense. That's very rational.
Hugh, have we talked to you about Bitcoin?
You haven't talked to me about Bitcoin, but you don't have to talk to me about Bitcoin to get me to be obviously looking at it and thinking about it. And one of the questions I continuously ask myself, and that's true of whether it's Bitcoin or it's true whether it's NVIDIA, which I own NVIDIA, I don't own Bitcoin, but nevertheless, when I think about Bitcoin and I look at the move that we've had to the upside, and we've seen this before, is that I ask myself the question, is this a move that is speculative? Have we moved from something that's rational to something that's irrational? Trying to figure that out with Bitcoin when you really have no underlying fundamentals is very, very difficult. But I would say just looking at the performance of the chart itself, I would say, quite frankly, it looks to me to be very speculative, and we might be headed towards some difficult times for Bitcoin. But everybody argues the same thing, and that is, look, there's a very limited supply, and there's a very strong demand for the underlying Bitcoin. And it's hard to fight against that kind of a combination. So I'm giving you my reflections, but these are only reflections, and they should not be really adhered to or really thought seriously about by any investors. I'm not an expert on Bitcoin by a long shot.
Let's talk about something where I do consider you an expert, and that would be which sectors may prosper most. And let's go from speculative to sort of long-term investing. Under a 4-year Trump administration, what would be the sectors to favor and the sectors to put in your, sort of disfavor box?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tyler. I think you first look at the performance of the market since, of course, he was elected. And interestingly enough, what we see is that essentially bull market sectors like industrials, like technology, have been performing very well, like consumer discretionary stocks also performing very well. It's good to see that. And the reason it's good to see that is because those are bull market sectors. I'd like to see those performing well. That gives me a signal that investors basically are on board the bull market. On the negative side, I leave utilities out of it. That's ordinarily very negative, but of course we've got a lot going on with AI and utilities, which kind of takes that out of the consideration. But there are others, like consumer staples, healthcare. Avoid those. Those are bear market sectors, and they're performing like bear market sectors. So the good news is bull market sectors that are going to benefit from a Trump administration, I hope, I cross my fingers, are performing well. And the so-called bear market sectors, the ones that will not perform well or not perform as well in the Trump administration, are at the bottom of the performance ladder.